lead editor David Burdett.
So, today we had a really interesting announcement coming from Sony Bend. I don't know if y'all have seen what happened, but the incoming siphon filter on PlayStation Plus is going to include trophies, including a platinum trophy.
Oh.
If this hits all of the classic games that they're planning for the service, this suddenly makes this service a must subscribe. We've been looking at it like, this isn't worth it. This isn't worth it. All these different things. Trophies adds a whole nother element to it. And I'm not necessarily talking for me. I'm not necessarily talking for y'all, but there are a ton of people who will subscribe just on the basis that there are trophies that they can earn for these old games.
The Greg Millers of the world are going crazy at this news. There are people who literally just trophy hunt, and
they will spend $3 extra a month just for it.
You just saying that, it gets me excited about looking up. Oh, I want to see what puns they use for these old games and see what they do to make these trophies interesting. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, I can look up those puns on the internet.
Yeah.
Bend Studios, the first trophy is an explosive start. And then the next one, the platinum is excellent work agent.
I like that already.
Well, happy for those who enjoy trophies. Editor Noah Ansaldua.
Apex Legends Ranked is saved. It's saved. It's in a completely different state than it was a month ago. I was depressed. I was walking through life with a chip on my shoulder, and now Apex Legends is where it's at. Ranked is, I think I talked about this a little bit before. I was talked about I'm gonna check in next time and tell y'all, and it's everything that it should have been. It's everything that it should have been from the start. It encourages you to win the game, to move up in rank. Instead of get 5 kills, get 10th place, and somehow move up in rank. Now it's it's encouraging you to get your kills and also win the game, so that you can shoot up as much as possible. A lot of people who ape the entire game and die 12th place, but with 20 kills or 10 kills or 12 kills or whatever, are realizing that's not the way to move up anymore. They've got to play smarter. They've got to play more tactically and more they would play in a tournament. And even then, it's kind of harder than it is in a tournament setting because of how much it emphasizes winning the game above everything else. So I'm digging it. I'm loving it. It's making for much more interesting end games, and it's a good time to play Apex. And also, if you want my full thoughts on that, you can check Gaming Trend for our impressions of that, which mostly glowing.
Any ranked system that does not put playing to win as the top priority is automatically flawed. So the fact that they fixed that, the easiest thing ever. Hey, why don't we make people try to win? Whoa. Yeah. Revolutionary thoughts for Battle Royale. My name is Anthony Shelton, writer and YouTube creator. Hear me out when I say this. Smash Brothers is better, but I'd rather play Multiverses. That's where I'm at with a closed beta right now. It is so good. Wow. It is a Smash knockoff. Let's be clear about that. But it's online. It's only online, which could be a bad thing for, the Smash fans who enjoy the couch co-op, and all that stuff, couch playing. But you can't play Smash online because it sucks. This you can play because it's got rollback, and that rollback makes all the difference. And I'd rather play that than have to deal with Smash online any day. Any day. So good. And it feels good to play. It's actually a good game. So it's got that going for it too. So yes, Smash is better. But if Smash had multiverses online and all that, then there's no question. Smash is going to remain king. But that's not the case. I'd rather be playing multiverses. All right, let's go into our trending news. Bethesda. We haven't even talked about this, but it feels like 2.5 weeks ago. But no, it was in the past 7 days. Bethesda delayed Starfield and Redfall to the first half of 2023. That is where it's at. That's pretty much the information we got about that. There's really nothing else. They had some other, flavor text to, smooth out that announcement a little bit. But how does this affect Xbox's reputation, David?
It affects them a lot, mainly in something that we've actually talked about before with, what was it? The initiative. Management. The studios are not being managed well at this point because you've got all these different projects. We've seen the issues that apparently is in the studio behind State of Decay. We've heard of the issues at the initiative. We've heard it all about all these different issues, and now there's issues popping up at Bethesda. It certainly is an issue that you would announce a game a year and a half off. But that at least means that you assume, you believe beyond a shadow of a doubt, with a year and a half to work on something, you should be able to hit a date. That means something is not being managed completely correctly. Now, we know with Cyberpunk and all these other kind of things, you can have issues. There can be problems. There can be all these different things. And we know that COVID was a thing with a lot of different things. But they didn't announce this 11/11/2020 date before COVID. They announced it last year during. They knew that with a year and a half, I don't understand how you mess that up. And this is starting to become something that is constant. And if Xbox is wanting to keep this whole plan together of, we want to release a game every quarter because we want Game Pass to grow, then they're going to have to fix a lot. And their reputation is at stake here because they bought 30 plus they have 30 plus studios and they don't have a first party game. There's not one announced for this year. I know there's rumors that Forza is coming, but that doesn't excuse the fact of technically you're at this moment, you have nothing. So to me, that really damages your reputation. I love the fact of all that they have coming. The future looks good, but how can I count on anything to really show up at this point? I didn't even mention Rare straight up canceled whatever Everwild was to turn it into something new. So it seems like there's things going a little too aloof over at Microsoft Game Studios right now, and nobody can hold people in check and be like, no, we've got to start getting content out. Because that's the thing, Game Pass will not grow. If you want Game Pass to grow, there has to be, your biggest selling point is first-party content day one. It's not that Sniper Elite 5 day one is awesome. Can't wait to play Sniper Elite 5. That's not the reason that you get Game Pass, though. You get Game Pass because the Starfields and the Halos and the Forza Horizons of the world are going to be on it day one, and we have not seen a lot of first-party games hit Game Pass day one right now to make that purchase worth it.
Nope.
Yeah, I think with the PlayStation Plus alternative coming out soon also, that, like what David is saying, is even more important. The day one exclusives first party release onto Game Pass is going to be the big selling point, especially when you compare the two side to side. Because PlayStation's bringing in their deep catalog of video games, and that's going to be a real choice that consumers will have to make between getting one or the other. And when you compare them to each other, I'm going to pick this shiny new thing instead of playing Game Pass with the old games that I've been playing forever until they have their big Mass Effect Legendary Collection added or whatever, anything like that. That might pull people back in every once in a while, which I think is why they're going to be able to sustain this blow. Like it's going to hurt them for sure. It's going to hurt their reputation not having these two games show up, and that happening after the fact of like Halo Infinite's big delay. It's just going to be another blow, but I think they're going to be able to sustain the blow because of Game Pass, because it still does bring in a lot of people, because I do think that the price point is still sweet, even when you compare it to the PlayStation thing, the PlayStation Plus announcements and like the price points they have. I think that it's still going to be like a great value for gamers, but they gotta show that they can do this. They gotta show that they can, pump out content at a nice pace, at a cadence that we can, you know, get down with, because we don't have anything. But also thinking forward in 2023. So we have Starfield and Redfall all but really confirmed, hopefully, for 2023, like 100%. And then probably Hellblade 2 at some point. I would probably say that maybe like Q3, like quarter 3 of 2022 or 2023, we see Hellblade 2. And then aside from that, I don't know if they have anything that we can like really rely upon. Maybe we see like Avowed at E3 this summer. I'm really hoping we do. But
if there was an E3.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
There are rumors Avowed's not going to be there.
E3 Lite, yeah. So I don't know, but I feel like they do have the potential to do that quarterly release that are big names releases next year. And, if they do that, maybe that's like a turning point. And maybe if they keep that momentum, we'll see. But right now, it's not looking that great for them.
We know 2022 is chalked. That's for certain. Like there's legitimately nothing you can add to your Game Pass library at this point that is bigger than Starfield would have been. There's just no way around it. You unless they can add God of War Ragnarok to it, which we know that can't happen. But it's just I like what you're saying, but it feels like we talk about this every year. Man, Xbox has got potential to do some great things this year, and I'm getting tired of it.
Because every year they get more potential.
I'm locked into 2025 with Game Pass.
Yeah.
I want to see some more from it.
David, I'm disappointed in you. I didn't think you would take the fanatical Twitter take on this podcast.
Well. Hey, we got to get them in somehow.
But that's you did that, and I feel like it's quite unfair to look at Microsoft and go, hey, you guys acquired a bunch of studios that haven't really put out anything yet, that are games that are still in development. Hey, those games should be coming out now. No, that's not fair. Like that is what it sounds like you were saying. They just acquired these games. A lot of these games are still in development. And let's not forget, this is all happening in the midst of COVID. So we don't even know like how much that has affected some of the back end stuff. It could be one of those things where it's like there was some stuff that happened in the mid section of development or whatever, and they're getting down to this, and it's like, oh, snaps, like there's some stuff that, just fell through the cracks because of working remotely. Whatever the case may be, I don't know how those pipelines work, but we know COVID-19 definitely did something to development for a whole bunch of studios where they had to delay everything. Like a whole bunch of stuff got delayed to this year, and stuff is still getting delayed either by a month or a week or, whatever the case may be. So there has to be still some residual effect. Do I think that's the main reason Starfield and Redfall got delayed? No, I don't think that is the main reason. Do you think that is a reason? We haven't seen anything for Starfield. So I get the idea that this is a bad look. I just don't think it's a bad look because they're not releasing anything. They acquired 20-something studios and they don't have anything coming out. Of course not, because they just got the studios. And technically, they don't even have the studios yet. Technically, they just got Bethesda stuff coming to Game Pass. So imagine if this didn't even go, like, any of this went through, right? Like, we still got Activision Blizzard, like, all that stuff is still happening. They don't have everything. Perfect Dark, that's a problem. We've seen that. So yes, that is absolutely true. But I'm not entirely sure Microsoft needs to micromanage every studio in order for these games to come out. These are professional AAA developers. At some point, y'all got to be able to handle your own business without Microsoft hovering over you. Like that's the way I feel. Mm-hmm. I work at a large nonprofit company. Huge all around America. They're not over here micromanaging us, wondering how well we're doing. We are running ourselves. We have certain things we need to meet, certain expectations that we have to have, make sure those things are met. If they're not met, then yes, they're going to ask about it. Other than that, You don't hear from them ever. That doesn't mean we're necessarily doing everything correct, but they're also not breathing down our necks. I wonder if that's Microsoft's approach. And I wonder, is it the studio's fault that they're having all these problems? Because just because you get acquired doesn't mean you need to start being managed by the people who acquired you. And if that's Microsoft's approach, I'm all for not micromanaging. Nobody likes being micromanaged. So it's hard to say like, oh, this is Microsoft's fault. You acquired them and now everything should be working perfectly. No, I don't. I think some blame has to be laid at the feet of the ones who are in the studio, running the studio.
Yeah, I agree with that to a point. I just think that it's just disappointing not to see more coming from them, especially when they do promise with the date November 11th, 2022. That is disappointing, but also, man, I don't know what people thought about Starfield coming out November 11th when we have not seen anything from that game except for like futuristic chairs and devs talking about the game in like flowery language like Todd Howard always does. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Here's the thing, though. We would have seen that at E3, though. That Todd Howard is very rarely gets up to show. He very rarely do we know a date that early, to be honest with you. Todd Howard usually 6 months before, that's when we get our breakdown of the game. So 5 to 6 months. So I was expecting to see it this year. That's why they had to announce that when they did, which I don't know. I feel like Sony does a little bit better a job of, hey, look at this cool stuff. We're sorry you're going to have to wait for it for a little while.
Yep.
Whereas Microsoft was like, hey,
Nintendo does that too.
Your Game Pass subscription, you ain't getting Starfield this year. The thing that's even more interesting, though, is it's not just Starfield. It's Redfall as well. I would have thought in the case of a delay, maybe Redfall being summer would have taken Starfield's place, so at least it keeps somebody held back. And maybe they still, since it's an online cooperative, maybe we get some sort of alpha to maybe hopefully help people forget a little bit. But that's where the biggest thing is for me is a year ago, you told us that in the summer and in that you had a year and a half to do this.
So if anything, Microsoft should be mad at Bethesda.
Oh, and I agree with that. And from what I understand, it was Todd's choice.
Yeah, and Phil Spencer. And we know he had a conversation with Phil Spencer.
Yeah,
and we know Phil Spencer's obviously said okay. So
and you've got to do it right. I don't want to say
Microsoft doesn't have anything. Well, yeah, that's not Microsoft's fault at this point.
I don't want to say don't delay things because that's not. If you think it's not worth putting out, don't put it out. That's the obvious thing with that. But it feels like Microsoft doesn't always have a plan B in place, which you can't always have a plan B in place for Starfield. But it would be nice to see we don't have this, so we're filling it in with this. And they're paying for that right now. Yeah. And they will continue to pay for it if they want this content model of we're going to have a new thing every quarter. Because the thing is game development has to match up with that if you are going to have that kind of content to bring in the subscribers to start getting Game Pass closer to profitability. Because you can't just lose money. That's the thing. Like, obviously, Microsoft, huge company, they can afford to lose money, but eventually they do want to see profit.
Yes, Satya Nadella is not going to let that fly for too long.
I think we'll be able to see them, doing what you're trying to say and saying, like, have a backup plan for a Starfield or some things like that. We talked about the potential again. Once that potential is realized, once they're in the swing of things and they've got games coming out left and right, then they probably have stuff like that's kind of sitting that they can put on the back burner for a little bit and bring up something that's closer to finishing development.
The issue we're seeing is at this point, I don't trust a single date that Microsoft is throwing out there because we've seen these release slates of like, they said like Everwild and Avowed and all this stuff coming in 2023. I don't believe that in the slightest at this point. Not after seeing Starfield get delayed. We'd always rather a game get delayed. The issue for them is that with Game Pass, you need content to sell subscriptions.
Okay, but it's not like they're not getting content. It's not like they're never going to get that content. Starfield's going to come out.
You're just
Redfall's
not going to grow, though. You're not going to grow in the meantime. And if projects keep getting delayed, then you end up in the same problem.
Yeah, but that's Microsoft's, shareholder problem. Like they're going to come out. Like that's the end of the day. They are going to come out. You will have something Xbox exclusive to play on Game Pass. You may not have it this year, but you will. You will. It will come out. I promise.
At this point, is it worth it for anyone to have purchased an Xbox Series X? Has their purchase been validated?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, I have one. I would say so. And I'm not even saying that like as a Xbox person. Like my bent is towards Xbox, but
if I did not have
I use Game Pass all the time.
Yeah. And if I did not have a PC, I would have gotten that Xbox Series X just for the next gen update on Destiny 2, because that is a generational leap. That is a generational leap. Like,
the difference is amazing.
That is worth it, 100%.
Oh.
I'm not gonna.
I unplugged my Xbox One and PlayStation 4 because I was like, I'm never touching these again. Like, it's that much of a difference.
Like, if I don't have a console, if I don't have a PC and I'm just a console player, like that is worth it just for the hardware itself, just for the ability to play Apex at 60 FPS 4K, Destiny 2 at 120 FPS 4K, and then Halo Infinite when it comes out. Like that would have been a moment for me too. But like, just because the games aren't there necessarily, like if you're a PS5 owner right now and you don't necessarily like Ratchet and Clank or Spider-Man, and I don't know, what do you have to play? Returnal or Demon Souls?
Horizon.
Or
Deathloop, which is a Xbox Game Studios game, because we have almost as many Xbox exclusives as Xbox does.
I don't necessarily know that like that's the way to compare it right now, like especially because it's early into their life cycles, and because of just how much Game Pass is a factor, and like the next gen updates to games that people have been playing that just make them that much better.
Yeah, we're nobody should be making the argument that because first party Xbox exclusive games aren't coming now, that Game Pass has become valueless. It's still better than any subscription service. But I mean, that's where it sounds like it's leaning towards this argument at this point. Like there's still going to be day one games that come out that people will want to play, at least try. Like there's a reason to subscribe to Game Pass. But yes, there will be more reason once they start getting their Xbox exclusives out there. And yes, by the time that happens, their subscriptions are going to shoot up because there's something there now. And apparently Phil Spencer can make that work because I like it. That's fine. Rather it be working. Because here's the thing. If Starfield came out and had a somewhat like a Cyberpunk 2077 deal, Starfield is the biggest game that will be day one on Game Pass. Yes, bigger than Halo Infinite at this point. Even before Halo Infinite came out, I think I could confidently say that. Starfield failed, Game Pass will fail. Like that, it's that kind of effect. So yes, you're not getting anything now. That's disappointing. And for the console warriors, they can make it, all those weird arguments that they make. But when it comes out, and if it's good, Game Pass is good too. So there's still something to look forward to. And there's still going to be stuff in the meantime that people will be able to take advantage of for Game Pass. Because the people who subscribe to Game Pass like playing a variety of games. And even if they don't play a variety of games, there's still stuff on there that they play because they stay subscribed. That's how this works. So I don't think it's the end of the world that it's not here yet and they don't have any exclusives coming out in 2022. It's fine. It's another year where Xbox didn't have an exclusive. We're used to this. It's like the Raiders having no great team for a long time. I'm used to this. It's okay. I didn't mean to go in that direction. That was trauma. But we're used to a little failure. It's okay.
Yeah. It's right for people to question them though, because this has been an ongoing cycle, and their reputation will take a hit because, and I think it's like Halo. We see the potential. We see a lot, like this is the best spot Xbox has been in because there are games finally being made. Back then, games weren't being made. It was there's that funny joke song that people do, Forza, Halo, Gears, and that's like it. Yeah. That's literally the Xbox exclusives.
Yeah.
And so far this gen, we've got Forza, we've got Halo. We haven't even got Gears. But there's so many games that are scheduled, and that's probably that's again one of the things that's frustrating is there's a long list of games that have been announced and we don't see them yet. We want to see them. We want to see I want to see Microsoft really put out some great bangers, and I know it's going to take some time to do some of that. Just don't tell me a year and a half that you have a date. This is a big problem. The industry has to like I get it. Oh, it's coming out in 3 months. Throw a date out. Coming out half a year, I'll even give it to you. Not a year and a half. That means you have a clear roadmap. Because you got a whole year and a half. That's
plus COVID.
That's more my point. Mm-hmm. If it was back in the middle of 2022, I would have said something. It was mid 2021.
Pipeline problems.
By that point, you'd had a whole year of COVID to figure this stuff out before you announce the date. That's
People
my
go
issue.
On vacation. People are fired.
I am going to go on vacation.
I
need vacation.
No, well, we can't look at development so binary too. Like development is more like our regular day jobs, more than people tend to think about it. But stuff happens as you work.
Crap
and
happens.
So who knows? Maybe
don't give me a year and a half out, please.
No, I feel you. That's an industry problem though. That makes
me feel like you have a clear roadmap.
It hurts Microsoft because of their reputation already, but that's an industry problem, and part of that comes from fans enjoying getting hyped up a year and a half early. My argument is not even just for Starfield, but my argument is no game should be announced until they are for sure going to put it out, and then you can do all the marketing you want at that point, and people are still going to buy. If no one knew about Starfield yet, and they delayed it, no one would know because it's all internal, unless somebody had a leak or something. But even still, at that point, it would be like, oh my gosh, there's a game called Starfield from Bethesda? Oh God. Okay. Bethesda still hasn't said anything. Imagine it is November and Bethesda announces Starfield. And then for the next, let's say 5 to 6 months, every month they are giving you more details about what Starfield is and what it's going to be. And, kind of the stuff that they've kind of been doing now with, the audio documentary, all that kind of stuff. And you get more and more information. And then boom, it comes out. People would still buy it in the same amount as it would now. Like, we don't need all this year and a half stuff. Nobody does. We don't need to know. We just don't. But they do it because social media, clicks, all that stuff, it works for them.
So what you're telling me is this could have been managed better.
So are you telling me that's Microsoft's fault? They didn't acquire them yet.
You gotta remember that
Phil
Bethesda
Spencer
announced
could have walked
Starfield
in the room
way before Xbox was even part of the conversation.
But you don't have to give a date. You don't have to give a year and a half out of a date, especially when the talk is that it was Todd Howard who decided.
Yeah, but Cyberpunk did the same thing.
But that means Phil Spencer let him.
Yes,
but that's Todd Howard. That's like trying to tell Kojima what to do. I don't know, like not in the same way, but it is, honestly. Like I don't think that Phil Spencer was the one telling him, "Hey, announce it November 11th."
You still need to make sure that you have a handle on and I don't. It's not Phil Spencer. That's not his job. Is managing these studios. I think that's Matt Booty who actually does all of that.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm not even
Phil has
saying
to sign off on all of these things.
I'm not even saying micromanage. Maybe they just need some more. And I don't want to say bigger characters or anything like that, but they need to be a couple more people in the room just looking at this. And it's mainly because that there's some disconnect if you can announce something that far away and have a clear roadmap and then it gets delayed another half a year.
I'm going to throw this out there. What if Starfield was delayed because it puts Microsoft in a better position to have their quarterly game release?
Then that would be another managing problem like David's talking about, wouldn't it?
Because that means you don't have a game. That means you made the mistake of not having that gap filled.
Okay, but how does that make any sense when these games can't just come out because they want a release schedule.
You can't just sit on a finished game either.
But that's what we're talking about with like them having an eventual backup. They're going to be sitting on some games so that they can move them into slots. Like,
yeah, okay, yes.
So I
don't know.
Fun
discussion.
No game is ever finished anyway, really David. Fun. You should know this. You know how this works. They could keep working on games until the end of time, whatever game that they're working on. We know this, so we know
Starfield's going to launch with bugs. It doesn't matter if they launch it 20 years from now.
Precisely. So even if it was delayed just to put it more in line with having a quarterly release, Bethesda is going to benefit regardless. We're all going to benefit from that. A little less Bethesda would benefit all of us. But I mean, if Redfall needed to be delayed and they just decided to keep Starfield, perhaps Microsoft can see they got their cork board with all the games and all the lines going to all the games. And they're seeing, oh yeah, we want this game to come out at this time. We want this game to come out at this time. We want this game to come out at this time. Based on where our development is with all these games, perhaps if we delayed Starfield into 2023, once Starfield comes out, then we have Redfall or, whatever other game we have, and now we can get the ball rolling. But to do it early in 2022, that might just be we have to take, and then in 2023 we'll get the snowball going.
I got it. This is the quarterly release schedule. It's Redfall, and then Starfield, and then it's Hellblade 2, and then it's like Halo the Endless or whatever the hell it's supposed to be. The like new expansion story.
Don't forget, season 3 comes out in November.
Dropping it like I trust anything at this point.
I trust this because they got the narrative stuff going on this season, and it's like at least halfway decent. Like at least they put animation work into it or whatever. I think that most of the work is going into like most of the work on the like story base is going into like the Endless. I think they've been like heads down on that specifically, and I think that it wouldn't be out of the realm of like believability to say next November is like Halo the Endless coming out, because it's supposed to be this like live service platform for further storytelling, and they already have most of the work done in terms of like the world, and if they add a few levels or a few different like another destination or whatever that ends up like shaping out to be, I think that could be like a next year thing, and that could be like the realization of the quarterly schedule dream for them.
You're shaking your head, David, so I'm waiting for something from you.
Oh no, there just feels like it's honestly, it's because you've just bought a lot of studios all at once. There just feels like there's a cohesion missing that isn't there, and maybe they're just not taking enough time.
Studios.
But that's where you've got to take the time to make sure everything is integrating. You have to have those people.
Who says they're not?
Integrate everything. Because
did you see their little Xbox wire where it was like, here's all the people over Xbox Game Studios? Boom.
There's not enough apparently. Because there's constant studio issues.
Honestly, and my point is, who says those studios issues weren't already there?
As like
then you got to make sure you have good talent to make sure that is. I'm trying to think of the right word for it because I don't want to say squashed because that just sounds wrong. Because there are legitimate issues, but that's where you have to have talented people to help those issues be worked out.
And how long does it take to be worked out, David?
Well, maybe if you stop just buying everything that moves and spent some time with what you have to iron those things out.
Because both can't happen at the same time. They can't buy a studio and create a culture of accountability for the studio.
You can, but when you have too many people to manage, you have to have more talent in the room to help manage those things, help mitigate these things.
Okay, so if they didn't have the talent when they acquired them, how long does it take to acquire the talent to manage the people better? Well, how long does that take?
You got to start interviewing people.
Who says they're not? That's my point. You're saying these things aren't happening, but behind the scenes they could be happening. That's all I'm saying. And these things take time.
But when we see constant issues, I just see that something is not happening.
When you are fixing something, of course there's going to be problems. Have you ever put furniture together that's not IKEA and you read the instructions and you're like, holy frick, like these instructions suck. I need to figure out a way to put this thing together correctly. I need to get more advice. I need to look up YouTube. When you're putting something together, it's not going to go smoothly. Especially
so should I buy a second desk?
Buy three more. Buy three more. If you have three more rooms, then you buy three more. If you can fit them in there, you buy three more. And you buy people to man those desks.
If you need more desks, then yes, you buy more desks.
In the middle of building my desk.
Buy that, yes.
Buy a second desk.
Forza Gears Halo, you need more than that. You got 10 fingers, so fill them all up.
This is really fun discussion. I'm loving this.
If you have the need for desks and you can't wait to finish the desk you have, then you buy the other desks, and by the time you're done with the first desk, you got more experience to handle the rest of the desks. Okay? That's how that works. And who says you even buy the same kind of desk? Maybe the other desk you end up buying from IKEA because you know dang well those are going to be easier to create. But at the time, they were more expensive. I don't have a problem with IKEA desks. Target, though, no go. I'm just saying this isn't binary.
This is a lot of fun discussion.
This is
really fun discussion. I like this.
This is not a binary issue where it's like, oh, you hire somebody and everything works smooth. No, like this is the real world, and in the real world, problems will arise as you are trying to fix and make things well. If you walk into a job and you take over that job as the boss or whatever the case may be, and it was a dysfunctional culture, you have to work to create the culture you want. You've seen it in sports where dysfunctional organizations like the Raiders do not have what they need in order to be successful. And so what have we seen? Even from the Raiders, year after year after year after year after year, dysfunction, 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 dysfunction. Who's going to come in and fix it? This person might be able to. Oh, it doesn't work out. This might. Oh, okay. Finally, looks like there might be some good function going on. These things take time. You can't expect it. And you can't expect to buy something you know you're going to need and expect it to be working from day one also. Like, that's how this works.
Oh, yeah.
So the fact that Perfect Dark is in a dysfunction right now is not totally on Microsoft. But if they don't get it together and if Perfect Dark ends up being garbage, okay, then Microsoft does have some blame to take for something like that. But we also can't dismiss Studio's own function and the fact that just because you buy something doesn't mean everything's already in place.
I would just like to make sure that, you fix the hole in the dam before you punch another hole into it to have to fix.
Yeah, but that's I don't know if that analogy works.
It does.
I don't think that analogy works.
In any case, I am playing a lot of I'm playing a lot of devil's advocate here too. So
You are
just for the fun of it at this
and
point.
it's
But
not working.
I agree with you. Like sometimes there's some issues. I do think there's some management that they need to look over and just be like, look, we've seen a lot of these issues. There's some things that have just kept popping up. We need to have a couple more people helping head up, because that's the thing is when you get all these many new people, like you said, all these new people, there's bound to be issues that you don't know about. So you need to make sure that not just one person or not just one group of people. You need to make sure you keep growing that group. So hopefully, and I really hope they find some really good talent to start bringing it. You can already see, like with Sarah Bond, she's really starting to almost become that Phil Spencer protege kind of role. So hopefully, just seeing some of these people rise up, it can help with some of these issues, so that it can help with this schedule that they want to get on. This content schedule.
Always two there are, no more, no less. You need Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond.
Yeah, we see how well that's worked for the Sith most of the time. So
pretty well compared to the Jedi Order, you know. Can we talk about that next question though? Could we have another Cyberpunk 2077 with Starfield?
But yeah, we very well could from what they've said.
Sure. So,
I hope
Noah, since you're so anxious to kick it off, do you think Starfield could become Cyberpunk 2077?
I think we've seen less of Starfield at this point in like the life cycle of when it's supposed to be out than we did at Cyberpunk 2077 when that was like relative to when that release was. And that makes me very like trepidatious looking into like what Starfield is actually going to be, because we literally don't know how the game looks. We know how it sounds, and it sounds cool, admittedly, but I knew how Fallout 4 sounded when it was supposed to come out in like 3 or 4 months from like when that E3 presentation was, and it sounded dope. It sounded like they were like handcrafting like art for the different like consoles and controllers, or like controls like throughout the map. And like if they did, I don't know what they meant by that, because everything looked the same. No matter where you went in Fallout 4, everything looked like the same reused assets that I could have used in world, like in my base building stuff. So I don't know. I think that Todd Howard has a very imaginative vision for how these games are supposed to be and how they're supposed to feel. And oftentimes they feel like that for the first few hours of playing it, and then you're like, oh wait, this isn't like a deep game. This isn't like what they promised. This isn't like the worlds that they said would be so deep, and the characters that would be so well thought out and well written. I would like in Fallout 4, which I think people, I don't know, I think generally people are like pretty warm on Fallout 4 in some ways, but I think also a lot of people thought that the RPG elements were really bad. The dialogue wasn't there. The dialogue options, like your player agency itself, wasn't there. And that's what I'm afraid of, because Starfield is supposed to be that deep RPG. And I'm not sure that I have the confidence in Bethesda being able to deliver on that at all.
Okay, so here's my question. Either of you can answer this. I don't know off the top of my head. Is Starfield going to be on Xbox One?
No. No, I don't believe
all right.
it is.
Then I think the chances of Starfield being Cyberpunk 2077 are far decreased than actually Cyberpunk 2077, because they were trying to develop on 2 different platforms, and then they tried to release it way before it was actually ready. So no, I think Starfield will be fine. It might be more like Fallout in terms of its initial reception, where it's like, oh yeah, this is fantastic, and then it dies off a little bit. I could see that happening, but I don't think it's going to be something where you question its functionality, where you question that it released too early, that it is unfinished. I don't think you're going to get anything like that. At most, you're going to get something that is, man, this is not as deep. It's more shallow. It's buggy. But, typical kind of Bethesda kind of complaints. I mean, as far as we understand, the same people were pretty much running Bethesda. So, you you are who you are. You're going to do what you're going to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if we heard similar criticisms of Starfield that we've heard from, other Bethesda games, because it's mostly the same people running Bethesda at this point. So, same thing for Redfall. So, David, what do you think?
My biggest issue with Starfield, and this is a game I've been excited for a very long time. My biggest issue is the fact of the engine that they're using. It's Creation 2.0. So that means they're probably, and from what I understand, they've rebuilt this engine. But if the basis of it is still Creation, we've seen Creation be such a piece of garbage. And the supposed leak, which has been talked about in some bigger game places like Game Rank or Game Rant and places like that, have a former employee said that the engine is a piece of crap. So
like Creation 2.0?
Creation 2.0. They're talking specifically on Starfield. So they said there's going to be an overabundance of content, that it looks pretty, but that there are some issues with the gameplay and such. And obviously, that could be part of all the delays and stuff, making sure it's fun to play and everything. But like Noah said, I'm just hoping that we don't end up in a situation where you are a lot of times when you play something like Fallout and it's like, man, this is awesome, this is awesome, this is awesome. There's very few Fallout games that I've finished. I finished Fallout 4 mainly because I played it until I was so totally burnt out that I just finished the final mission. And that didn't take a ton of time. I don't want this to be another Bethesda game that I get lost in for 20 to 30 hours, and then I just don't want to play it anymore. Because that's been my experience with a lot of Bethesda, and love playing big RPGs.
So, yeah.
Go ahead.
The way I'm viewing this question is like, yes, like, okay, will it be like a buggy, horrible mess and like unplayable? But also, will it overpromise all of it and overhype all of this stuff, and then even after it's fixed, just be another game? Like Cyberpunk 2077 was supposed to be a generation-defining game, and it's just like an okay game. Like I could play it and I would have fun now, but it wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, at every like second of me playing it, which is what I need out of Starfield. Like if it's supposed to be this big for Xbox, it needs to be like, it needs to hit every single note and it needs to hit it perfectly. And that's kind of like where I'm at. And that's kind of where I'm at when I'm thinking like, is it going to be another Cyberpunk 2077? Because honestly, I'm not even thinking about like how awful it was at launch. I'm thinking about how mediocre the package is and how. And then, like, going back to Fallout 4, the gunplay was the primary focus of that game, arguably, because the dialogue wasn't there. The RPG, like, agency of your character wasn't there. The gunplay was the only thing that was, like, supposedly popping, and it wasn't great. It was the main focus of the game, arguably, and it wasn't great. And I'm not a big fan of that. Also, I'm not a big fan of, like, their kind of just like, oh, you can level up every stat. Like, that shouldn't be how an RPG works, I don't think. Like, you can level up, you can max out every stat is basically what they were doing with that game, and I don't really think that's the way to go. I want to feel like I'm a unique character, and I want to feel like I'm just like a god, like planted into this world. But I just don't know how their philosophy is shifted in that sense. And I do want to talk about like Fallout New Vegas and Obsidian Entertainment, because I feel like they have so much more potential. We're talking a lot about potential, but I feel like they have so much more potential compared to a Bethesda, and that's like shown more recently in things like the Outer Worlds. And like I'm excited for Avowed, the Outer Worlds 2, and like what they can bring to those projects, because Fallout New Vegas is one of the best games of all time, like in my opinion. And if they like deliver on those games, which are like way more sleepers right now, like no one's talking about Avowed, no one's talking about the Outer Worlds 2, because there's not much to go off of. But I would argue that there's just as much to go off of with Starfield, and I think that those two games could be huge. And I believe in Obsidian a lot more than I do Bethesda at this point.
They're also a lot smaller scale compared to what Bethesda does, though. And people forget Fallout New Vegas at launch was a pretty buggy game. Like it was a fantastic when it comes to narrative and all that. Nobody's going to deny that Obsidian definitely built a more cohesive narrative, a better story, better dialogue, better lore. But it wasn't the same scale that
Bethesda
that
game
games, and
was made in a very short amount of time too, like a very short amount of time.
And I do echo your sentiments a lot with the Cyberpunk overhype, like generational shift with this. The problem Starfield has is the same that Cyberpunk has, just maybe minus this game is just completely trash. That was the problem with Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk had the addition of, oh my gosh, this game literally will not play. I don't think we're going to have that with Starfield, but I'm worried that we will not see oh man, this is the next generation of playing this. That's one of the reasons I'm not as big of a fan of it as everybody else, but I recognize what Elden Ring has done because it was a generational shift for that game genre. I want so badly for Starfield to be that, just not 100% sure it's going to be that shift.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we just spent the entire time talking about
Hey, it was good conversation though.
Starfield and barely Redfall. Not the way I expected it to go. So let's quickly do some apples to apples. Try to keep this to an hour. David, what have you been playing?
Speaking of things that suck, no, just So
bang.
I decided to go back into my library considering it has a next-gen update and play around with Vampire.
Vampire. Okay. My 3 words are suck it, bloody decent, and let's go with no, don't put me in the sun. I don't know.
All right,
Noah, what are your 3 words?
I'm gonna go with Gothic vibes, Bloodborne remake win, and such a beautiful piece of tech, and you're playing Vampire on it.
Well, here's the fun, Noah. I'm playing this on PS5.
Oh no! Oh no!
I'm actually going to go with bloody decent because you know what? It is bloody decent.
Okay.
It's actually a lot. I remember reading about it and talking to people about it and stuff, being like, man, this is probably just a janky mess. Of course, love Greedfall, which is literally a janky mess.
Noah's currently trolling David in our notes.
He is trolling us pretty hard.
Not me. I don't have a PS5. You do.
Yeah,
I want one though.
But it's a lot of fun. It runs great on the PlayStation 5. Runs that 60 frames that we all love. But the thing that's so great about Vampire is it's not the combat. The combat's janky. But it's made by Dontnod, who does the Life is Strange games. The dialogue and the way that you progress that dialogue is one of the best systems that is out there because you chat with people, you get different things. But here's the thing, you get hints talking to different people that are in the hospital that you work at. Those hints will open up dialogue with other people. So it's not only that, you can pick up, like, for instance, I went over and there was a letter on one of their nightstands of the patients that was in there. I picked it up and read it, and it opened up another hint for me to talk to him about, another thing for me to ask this gentleman about. So just
is that revolutionary for you?
It's not revolutionary necessarily.
I feel like other games have done this.
It meshes extremely well is the biggest thing. Like the way that they go about it and the fact that it's
organic.
A fun story. It feels organic and it's just a good story. Like I really enjoy what they're setting up. I'm always a sucker for like the Gothic London kind of vibes anyway. So really, really enjoyed that about it. But it's a lot of fun. It's definitely one of those things of it's best when you're just enjoying the dialogue. And
sounds good.
It's competent when you're playing the combat and such.
Sounds good. Noah also wrote in our notes, PS5 is not a beautiful piece of tech, which that is not an opinion. That is fact, David. If you,
I mean, if you look at it on the outside, it's
sure.
what's on the inside that counts.
That's true.
It is. It is true. Can't say the Series X isn't a beautiful piece of tech.
Oh, it looks like
it's a rectangle.
It literally got made fun of and made into a mini fridge. So, which I
Some
have.
function came out of it.
Good
And it works
management
fantastic.
choice from their perspective to turn it
There you go.
around.
This is a good management choice. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that doesn't help their Game Pass subs. Just being honest.
Maybe not. But talking about cats after your very serious email is probably not a good management choice either.
Oh god.
Let's not even start with that.
Oh.
I'm not.
That's a can of worms.
No, it's a room of cats. That's what that is.
Cats out of the bag.
My cat, yeah. My game is The Last Friend. Noah, what are your 3 words?
You can pet the dog. Plants vs. Guacamelee and retro goodness.
Oh, okay. David, what are your 3 words?
I went with controller chaos, colorful, and puppy.
So I'm not a big pet person at all. I like dogs. Dogs are my favorite. So anything pet related, already axed. So I'm going to... Where did retro goodness come from? Am I missing something here?
No, it's got like that retro vibe of like the 80s beat 'em ups.
He's a young.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
No,
you're
it's got,
young.
like, the 80s
no,
art style. It looks retro in that way.
That's retro to you?
80s?
Oh my!
That's
80s?
not retro. That doesn't look retro
That?
to me.
Like
but
early 90s
That's what you think?
arcade?
80s video game? Okay, I need
it's
to
too
show
nice-
you what
it's
80s
nice and
video
crisp,
games.
man. It's
Yeah,
colorful.
I need to show you
Oh
some
my
80s
gosh.
video games.
You're telling me that's not stylized as if it was like a modern 80s?
No, it's
Absolutely not. Oh,
Am I looking
I have
at the
to.
wrong game.
not. I will
here?
disagree with that.
Yeah, no, I will show you some 80s games and what those look like.
And if
I'm going to go
management of
with-
Xbox would do something about it.
This is on PC and the Switch, so it has nothing to do with that.
I know. I had to.
I am going to go with colorful. We'll go with colorful. So
It
Noah,
is
you still get a
colorful.
point either way. Or no, David,
Well,
you
that's
get the
me.
point. So yes, The Last Friend. It's an indie game, and I wasn't sure what to expect from it. I heard, we have a Trello board where we can kind of choose, hopefully get a game that we can review, and all I saw was like brawler. So I was like, oh, that's right up my alley. Let me check this game out. And it's actually a tower defense game that combines beat 'em up mechanics. So you control a character that moves between lanes that can beat up on the enemies that are coming towards your tower, which is an RV in this case. And you can still set turrets down at the same time. So you're setting turrets while you're also using fighting mechanics, not deep ones, by the way, but fighting mechanics to also fend off your RV, your tower. So, and it's balanced really, really well.
Awesome.
Like it's not a deep game, and it's not a particularly challenging game until the end where it really starts putting the challenge on. I think it took way too long for the challenge to ramp up, but it's balanced very well. I wasn't sure if there would be a situation. Well, I'll say it this way. You can create different builds based on the type of dogs that you have, where you can just pretty much put a few turrets down and you just beat everything up if you're fast enough. Or you can have a build where you can kind of do both, where you beat some stuff up, let the turrets do work, or you can just have a build where it's just all turrets. And based on, the different dogs that you have, you can do that. But I keep mentioning these dogs. What do I mean? The dogs are the turrets. Like, they man the turrets. So, like, this is a weird game where you're rescuing dogs, and every dog that you rescue turns into a turret or turns into, like, an ultimate ability. Like, you stun everything on the field. Or, like, a skill-based dog where it boosts your health. It can make you attack faster, or different stuff like that. Boost the power of your turrets. So I don't know why they went in that direction, but it's interesting. The story isn't great. It's like a Saturday morning cartoon that isn't told very well, but the gameplay is really, really good. I want to see more of this kind of tower defense where you're not just watching and putting turrets down and seeing what happens and, kind of micromanaging that way. You have to micromanage the turrets while also, if you want, fighting off the enemies. I think it's really good. More people need to play this. Like, it's only got like 40 something or like 60 something Steam reviews. I'm like, I don't know how well it's doing on Switch. I imagine it's actually doing very well on Switch. Indie games tend to do well on Switch, but yeah, it's a very good game. It's very good. It's going to get a nice little score from me in my review that's coming up. Noah, what have you been playing?
Well, let me just say that I think maybe some of those Xbox executives should play some tower defense games so they can learn some micromanaging skills. But I've been playing Soundfall.
All right.
A lot of it.
I'm David. I'm just going to give you the point on this one. I don't even know what this game is. And I've been so busy.
Can I read mine?
I didn't even look it up. But you can read off your 3 words.
I went with, if a tree falls in the... Oh, you get the joke. Blistering beats and imported malfunctions.
All right.
I like if a tree falls in the you get the joke, because it feels like that is kind of how... I don't want to be too mean, but it feels like that is kind of like, yeah, once you start playing it a little bit, you get the joke, you get it. You're kind of just going through the paces at the like. I'm on like the 3rd world right now, and I feel like I am so done with this game. Like I'm just like, I get it. You get new characters. So anyways, like let me explain what the game is. It's like a rhythm based bullet hell, really, is what it is. It's like sort of like Cadence of Hyrule and like Tomb of the Necrodancer or Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Okay.
And it's basically like you have to. It's a looter shooter also. There's like a looter shooter aspect to it as well. So there's a lot of things going on. But basically you're just like firing to the beat, dodging to the beat. When you fire to the beat, your stuff does extra damage. When you don't fire to the beat, you run out of like ammo and you have like a cooldown. So you don't want to do that. When you get hit, it kind of throws you off. It keeps you frozen in the spot for a little bit. And then like your characters have like ultimates, and they also have like melee attacks, depending, or not even just melee, but it depends on what the character is. The first girl you unlock, she has like a sword, and the second person gets an axe, and then the third one, so far, I think there's 4 altogether, but the third one has like a bow and arrow, and it's also a multiplayer game. So I haven't had the chance to play with anyone else that has this game, but there's a ton of stuff going on with it, and the music isn't all that memorable. Like I'm trying to like think back and like remember a certain track that really grabbed me, and I can't. When it's a music based game, I think you'd want something like that.
Agreed.
The enemy variety, it's there. Like I will say that there are like a good amount of different kinds of enemies, and some that are really annoying, and some that I like always like try to focus as soon as I can, because like the way they attack and stuff is pretty upsetting. But also I do want to say that like these enemies are called the Discordians, and maybe I don't like, well, there was a joke to be made about like Discord and how I'm like how much I'm on Discord, and like as soon as I like was playing it and I was like streaming it to a couple friends, because like it's been out for a while, it was just like we just had a lot of fun with that one. But anyways, it's just it's an okay game. I like looked into it. There's only 2 bosses in the whole game, and they're at level 50 and level 100. So I'm looking forward to those 2 bosses to shift the game a little bit, but we'll see what that actually does.
Good.
Yeah, I'm excited to get further in and see like how much more bullet hell it can get, because there's only been a few times where it was like, oh man, this feels like I'm playing like a bullet hell proper. And a lot of times it just feels like I'm just kind of vibing, which is all right. It's not a bad thing necessarily.
It sounds like a fascinating game, but obviously the way you're talking about it, sounds like something I should pass up.
There's a lot of potential, it's just like Xbox. There's a lot of potential, and some of it, like, I will say there are some like really
there was just management in that studio.
There's a lot of like really good stuff when it comes to like the cutscenes, like because every time you like pick up the first weapon as whatever character you're playing as, like when they pick up their weapon, that animation is very like 80s, and it is 80s. It is very like 80s rock, like glam rock kind of thing, where there's like a beautiful like animation of them like getting their weapon and like floating into the air and like doing something cool, or like power stancing or doing something like that, and that's always pretty cool. But that is a fleeting 5-second animation, and then you're back into the game, and the game looks pretty, and like it's not like bad. It's just that it's kind of samey once you've played a little bit of it.
Okay, I just thought of something also. You believe The Last Friend looks like an 80s art style game, but then you also called it a Plants vs. Guacamelee? Like, I'm sure that's based on the way it looks, yes?
I was being very dumb by saying Guacamelee. I have not played Guacamelee, but I always think of it as a beat 'em up. It's not.
No, it's a Metroid.
It's a Metroidvania.
Yeah.
So I was gonna strike through it in the doc, but I should have said like Plants vs. Streets of Rage or something like that. That would have made more sense.
I hate the Streets of Rage comparison. Streets of Rage is too good to be compared to this. It's too good of a brawler. Beat 'em up. All right, David, what you got? Oh my God. Whew, what are you working on?
Sadly, I must go the redacted route. So stay tuned because we got some really cool things coming.
Okay. Noah?
I've got a review for the game that I just talked about coming out soon. It's Soundfall. So if you want more in-depth thoughts that are not as jumbled, and probably not as negative, just because it's easier to be negative when we're on this train.
About me being positive, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Soundfall review coming out soon, and then other than that, I'm streaming Apex and having a good time.
All right. I am also reviewing The Last Friend. Currently writing that, but I'm also doing a preview for Multiverses, and then I've also been writing a bunch of opinion features. Probably the ones to note are my thoughts on Halo Infinite, Last Spartan Standing, which I think fails as a Halo mode and miniature BR. My thoughts on E-United's busted up roster right now and all the drama going on that. That one is titled Lack of Trust, Dysfunction, and Naivete broke E-United's Halo roster. And my thoughts on Division 3 Season 9 came out for the Division 2, and I'm going to start getting into that, so hopefully I'll have some thoughts on that. But I think it's time Ubisoft develop the Division 3. So that's what I think about that. So you can read those on Gaming Trend. They're all there right now. So that'll do it for us today. That was a fun and long episode, so sorry about that. But, hopefully it was a good time. We try to keep it to an hour, though. But it's been 2 weeks, so we got to get it out of our systems. Good to see y'all. So appreciate you watching. Appreciate you listening. We'll talk to you later.